We've talked all week about what went wrong in Nebraska's opener. Today we tell you what went right and how it's raised our level of hope about this season.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, more dedication, more attention to detail, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved.
All right, welcome. It is Thursday here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you. We're gearing up for another game. The best part about game one is that game two is right around the corner. You get 12 of these things, even though it's against Akron and Houston Christian over the next couple weeks here, and who knows what we'll learn. It's still a football game and tonight at Memorial Stadium, which many people are excited about for 48 hours from now.
That's right. We're going to be joined by a guest in the second segment of today's show, and we have our abbreviated version of the picks in 2025. We're not going to go through all of the Big Ten and various college football games for week two, but we will have a Big Ten game of the week, a national game of the week, and this week a bonus game because I just could not put it aside. It was so intrigued by several things that are going on in this bonus game that we had to get it out there and make a selection, and that will be in the final segment, along with our score predictions for Nebraska-Akron. Tomorrow's the mailbag, so get your questions in. Last call on the mailbag.
All right, looking forward to our guest. They're in the green room right now, just yes, waiting for us to ask them many questions. So we will do that coming up in just a couple minutes. All right, so you mentioned it. Let's look positive here as we trend towards Saturday. Things that we saw in game number one for Nebraska against Cincinnati. We tend to dwell on the negative. We tend to dwell on, man, is this going to be a concern all year long?
So did the coordinators this week. So yeah, we're not alone.
That's definitely the mood, the temperature right now about Nebraska football. Like there's kind of a tenseness to it. Like, all right, you gotta get things going here pretty quickly. Now, fortunately, Nebraska does play Akron and Houston Christian over the next 2 weeks. So whatever deficiencies they might have might be covered up by the fact that they played just god-awful teams over the next 2 weeks. But let's take a look at some things that we liked. We each have two things that we liked from last Thursday in Kansas City. Hard to believe it was a whole week ago now.
It is. It's a week. We're a week removed from the opener. All right. Number one for me is the play of the secondary. I think this has gotten lost a little bit, or maybe not made enough of, which is surprising because the secondary and Malcolm Hartzog saved the game. But even without the game-saving interception, the defensive backs were a highlight. Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback from Cincinnati, is not just known as a running quarterback. There were many NFL scouts, as Matt Rhule made clear in his comments to the media on Monday. A bunch of people that he knew from his time at the NFL were there at that game, and the player that they were primarily there most to see, well, it might have been Dante Corleone, the Cincinnati defensive tackle, but it was also Brendan Sorsby. Quarterbacks are going to draw the attention of scouts in numbers and in like the types of people who come more so than any other player on the position. And it's not just because he's a good athlete and he can run. He can throw, and Nebraska shut down his throwing game. It was Sierra Wright and Andrew Marshall at those corner spots. I think Cincinnati threw at right just once, 0 completions against Nebraska's top corner. Marshall was solid, but more than solid in his Nebraska debut. Marquise Buford, Deshaun Singleton, and Hartzog held it down at the safety spot. Singleton had a very active game and getting up in the box. And then Donovan Jones, the redshirt freshman out of Omaha North, who broke out in the bowl game last year, he picked up right where he left off. There were some players who did not pick up right where they left off in the bowl, from the bowl game to August 28th. I thought Donovan Jones was one of those players, young player who actually took a step forward from the Boston College game to the Cincinnati game. So props to all of those guys in the back for Nebraska's defense.
To be fair, like I think you're totally. I mean, that would be the first thing that I would take away from the game. If we're saying what's the positive, what's the thing that got confirmed that we thought was good, defensive secondary. I mean, I think all of our thoughts were confirmed on that. And you're right about Jones. I mean, he is always around the ball. So I think Nebraska's got a playmaker there. So for me, I'll go, although it didn't show itself much in the results, when the opportunities presented themselves for Nebraska's wide receivers downfield, I thought that picture looked good. Like I think Dane Key, there is reason to believe that Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter are going to be an upgrade over Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair from last year. I thought Hunter's contested catch in the end zone was, one of the better plays by Nebraska wide receiver in a little while. I mean, especially when
it's strange to hear Dylan say that they never practiced that throw.
Right. Yeah. Really weird. So especially when you include the fact that it was in the end zone and it happened in a game that ended up being a 3-point game, that's a gigantic catch, and a contested catch and a tough one. So I think there is reason to believe that those two guys, the top of Nebraska's receiver room, could bring a lot more consistency to the table than the top group from last year. So I thought that they would be better than they were in 24, and I'm still buying after game one.
Yeah. Solid. I agree. Key and Hunter, upgrade over Nair and Banks. All right. Number 2 for me, Dylan Raiola's decisiveness on when to leave the pocket and the way that he did that. So this is a small step because you don't look at the stats and say, oh, he ran for 30 yards. No, he didn't. And he took a couple of sacks. They made a point to mention that it was a good decision on his part to take a sack on Nebraska's last offensive drive. And I agree because it required Cincinnati to take a timeout. And the final drive for Cincinnati has a different look if the Bearcats have a timeout and if they're not starting at the 9-yard line. But that's thanks to Archie Wilson. So, and thanks to Dylan for getting Nebraska in position to punt the ball down to the 9-yard line. You would like to see him be able to make a play in that spot to complete a short pass, but the play was blown up. So it wasn't a highlight of Nebraska's opener, to be clear, what Dylan did with his legs, but he looked considerably better in making decisions on when to move with the ball out of the pocket. He moved the chains at least once. I remember one where he had kind of an awkward, it wasn't a slide, but it was a head first slide. You don't really want to go head first too often.
I don't think he knows how to slide. It's weird because he's got a baseball background. So I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, he knows how, I don't know. He's slid before, but and he executed it. Yeah.
He stinks at it.
He does. Get out of bounds, Dylan. And he executed an RPO once, well, a couple times, but one where he actually ran from the shotgun formation and then threw it laterally to Luke Lindenmeyer for a gain down near the goal line.
Yeah, that's the one where Lindenmeyer stayed in bounds because the defensive back just like held him up against the sideline.
Yeah. That was not part of Nebraska's offensive arsenal a year ago, that play right there. And really a lot, the RPO thing, like Satterfield didn't run RPOs. He didn't run mesh concepts. So those are the big things that Dylan has added, started to add last year in the Dana Holgorsen version of this offense, and it looked better. I liked his decision making, and I expect that it's going to help Nebraska in the Big Ten.
My second one's a little bit more results based, but one thing that I was tracking the entire year last year was just finishing drives. So when they got across the 40 last year, they only scored 38% of the time. When they got across the opponent's 40, they only scored, not 38% of the time, the inverse of that, the 62% of the time, I guess it would be. So they didn't score 38% of the time when they crossed the 40. It wasn't very good. And we were tracking that number the entire year. And so as it pertains to that part from game one, 5 out of their 9 drives reached the opposing 40-yard line, and they came away with points on 4 of them. And that includes a long field goal to kind of start things off for them. Obviously a really small sample size, but I think, that's just something, that's another thing that we're just going to be tracking the entire year. Can they turn drives into points? Having a field goal kicker helps that, and having receivers that can win one-on-one helps with that as well. So maybe Nebraska lacks the running game that we thought that they had, but maybe they'll find alternative ways to be able to continue to push the ball downfield and be able to score points.
Yeah, Cunanan, definitely a big part of that. As you know, John Holt did kick a 50-yard field goal last year. I don't know that it's going to be the last time. I believe I will predict it will not be the last time that we see Cunanan kick a 50-plus yarder in his first season at Nebraska. The Huskers got one of those in 13 games a year ago. So that's great. I do want to say, before we go to break, I mentioned that Satterfield didn't run RPOs last year. I think it was in his arsenal. He didn't run them with Dylan. Like, he wasn't putting Dylan in position to have the option to run or pass in the scheme that Nebraska had for its first 9 games of the season. All right. When we come back, we have a guest. It relates to the season opening game last week, and we will get a feel from this guest about what to expect Saturday night in a certain area of the stadium. That is next.
But first, a word from our friends at Upside. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up using the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or the Google Play Store right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use our limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already were going to buy. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal to me. Do not think that it's too good to be true. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card from Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive by. Download the free Upside app now using limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Disclaimer, offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
And a message from Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into that extra gear, keep moving the game forward. I want to look back at Nebraska's opening game and think about the times when Nebraska had to move forward. The Huskers got behind 3-0 in that game. It's not a big deficit, but you know, the thoughts start coming in. You haven't played a game in 9 months. How do you move forward? And that's where the guy that we just mentioned at the end of that last segment, Nebraska's kicker, Kyle Cunanan, he came through with a big kick, 50-plus yards, 52 yards to be exact. It was a breakout performance, a moment to get the fans involved, to get that energy on the Nebraska sideline going. He moved Nebraska forward. Going for it, no matter when it is in the game, having a positive outlook, it keeps people moving forward. When you follow what moves you forward, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, welcome back. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer, Locked On Nebraska podcast, Thursday episode. All right, in the year and a half, Connor, that we have been doing this show, you and I are continually amazed at the kind of feedback that we receive. We often talk about this, that when we're out in public, sporting events, doesn't have to be in Lincoln, doesn't have to be in the state of Nebraska. We could even be out at a restaurant with our families. We hear from listeners and viewers of this podcast, often in very unexpected ways, and always, I know, it brightens our day. Well, last Friday on the show, we talked about one of these encounters. It happened Thursday, and today we want to bring Brady Alderson into the pod. Brady, you can see him if you're there on YouTube. He is he's alongside Connor and I in the little box. Our encounter with Brady in the press box at Arrowhead last week was memorable for a couple of reasons. So, Brady, first, welcome to the Locked On Nebraska podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You are a student at UNL. You were working in what capacity in the press box at Arrowhead in the opener, and where are you from? What are you studying in Lincoln?
Yeah, so I'm a junior. I'm actually from Kansas City, so that was cool. I got to be in the
wow.
press box, my grown-up stadium, hometown stadium. But yeah, we were calling the game for KRNU for one of our classes. So I was on color, my buddy was on play-by-play, and got to call the game. It was awesome.
Nice. Okay, so before we ask you about this encounter, what do you know? Do you have the schedule for this year? What's your game where you're doing play-by-play? You will always remember your KRNU play-by-play game.
Well, the schedule is only out through Houston Christian right now, so okay. I'm hoping
you'll always remember it.
A couple maybe, but
so my game was the FAU game in 2014, I think, or something like that. Nebraska won 55-7, I think. But the thing that happened in that game was that Jordan Westerkamp caught a tip ball behind his back up against the sideline. And that I will always remember it. You will always remember your KRNU game if you come up through the ranks at Nebraska. Okay.
How was your call on that play?
It was good, actually. I'm still proud of myself for it. A decade later, we can talk. I could bring it. I have the clip somewhere on my computer.
We need to find that.
So let's ask Brady some questions here. So he came up on the podcast a couple days ago because we recounted a situation in the press box where you and I, Mitch, were talking with Damon Benning, who of course is the color guy on the Huskers radio network, also former Husker running back, Orange Bowl MVP. He's got quite the cachet around here.
He was an above average backup for 4 years at Nebraska on some great Nebraska teams from 1993 to 96.
I think he murdered the University of Pacific's football team, at one point in the late 90s.
Be careful.
So Brady comes up and we're all chatting at halftime and he's like, "Hey, Connor and Mitch, I love the podcast." And we were just enthralled by this. We were so excited that you first of all ignored Damon and only exclusively talked to us. So Brady, please tell us about that, how you recounted that situation.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming up.
I probably owe Damon an apology, but I had seen you guys like pregame and multiple times, and I was talking to my play-by-play guy, and I was like, I've been watching them every day, like prepping for the game. And I was like, should I go up? And I was like, they're probably working. I shouldn't. And then it gets to halftime, and we're like halfway down. We got to get back to our halftime show. And I was like, I just got to go. So I leave him, and he's like, all right, I'll go back. I'll cover for you if we need to go live. And I went back. That's why I was kind of out of there in a hurry. But Damon kind of had his back turned to me a little bit, and I really didn't even see him. I just you guys were in a conversation. I was waiting for a second, and then I was like, I just got to go shake their hands really quick, break up the conversation. Maybe a little rude, but
No, that's how it is. People have limited time in those kind of moments. And I would encourage you, like, if you continue with this broadcasting thing, to always go and say hi to people. Like if you see Mike Tirico in a press box at halftime and he's talking with somebody, or, whoever it might be, Sean McDonough, who knows what kind of games Nebraska is going to play this year. It could even be somebody that you like to watch from BTN. If you're in the press box this week, like, go up and say hi. Like, those guys and women, they want to meet young, aspiring broadcasters and media people. Was that your first time ever in the Arrowhead press box?
It was. I've been there so many times, never been in the press box.
Yeah. Did you get some of the candy that was hanging on the wall?
I did not have any of the candy, no.
I had too much candy. Yeah. By the way, at halftime, unless somebody's on the phone, or something, they kind of have the look to them like they're working. I certainly wasn't working at the time, we were just talking about football, but I wouldn't qualify.
I think we were talking about the Omaha West Side, Omaha North game when you walked up, which Damon had to miss, and he's on staff at West Side, and his younger son Micah was playing in that game, and so it was not important stuff to our jobs. All right, so we have learned since we met you that you actually are doing work this season for the Huskers radio network. Is that correct? And what are you doing for them? Because this changes the complexion of that moment just a bit.
Yeah, it does a little bit. I'm pretty much a producer, like producing games for them and stuff. So I'll be producing Damon on Saturday for the football game and some of the Husker volleyball games on Friday. But yeah.
Awesome. So had you met him? Have you met him previously?
Because I hadn't met Damon, but I met Kyle. I met Kyle right before the game. I was like, look, he let me look at his board and stuff. Just kind of was rattling ideas off him, and then
excellent.
That's awesome.
Okay, so you'll enjoy that this year. That'll be great experience for you, Brady. So
and don't feel bad about ignoring Damon at all.
No, keep doing that. Actually, I hope it becomes a bit where you just like ignore him and you just shake hands with everyone else that you ever see, but except for him.
If I see him in the conversation again, I'll go up and I'll introduce myself to whoever he's talking to.
Okay, but make sure you mention us. Make sure you mention the Locked On Nebraska podcast when you do so. The other question that we wanted to ask you, we wanted to get your student perspective. What's the vibe? What are the students feeling about Nebraska football going into 2025?
Yeah, I kind of wrote down some notes, but I figured like the 7.5 line was something that I thought was interesting because anybody you ask on campus, the line is like, I don't even hear anybody thinking 8 wins. Nobody wants 8 wins. It's always like 9 or 10 is right where they go to. And I feel like it's just anytime Nebraska has a chance to be given the benefit of the doubt with these fans, they get the benefit of the doubt. Like this Michigan game, anytime you talk about it, I hear everyone like, this is where we'll learn what Nebraska has. But nobody has it down as a loss when they're getting to that 9 or 10 wins. And Michigan's ranked right now, and I just feel like everyone, maybe outside of the journalism school where people are covering the team, some of them have a little bit more reasonable takes. But anybody else is 9 to 10. Michigan is an automatic win. And pretty much Penn State's the only one that people are like, we might lose that one.
Pretty reflective of what everybody else. I mean, that sounds very familiar, Mitch.
Do you think that changed at all as a result of a 3-point win in the opener?
Well, the line was 7.5. And once again, everybody wanted double-digit point win, 10, 14. Yeah. And even after the game, you would expect them to be, first one-score win in however long. And people were like, we wanted 37-17. We wanted 24-10, whatever. Nobody was happy that we just won by a score. They were happy, but maybe not satisfied. And so I think the expectations are always just very high for Nebraska football.
Did you come to Nebraska to do sports media? What was your reason for picking the school, being from Kansas City?
Yeah, Nebraska wasn't even on my radar until like early or late senior year. I was always a KU guy. And then I went to the Nebraska journalism school with one of my buddies. His grandpa was a running back for the Huskers a long time ago.
David Benning?
And Jeff Kinney.
Oh, man, you're going way back. Yeah, you're going way back there.
But he brought me down on a tour with his family, and I went to the J school. I wasn't really thinking about Nebraska, and I was like the whole do from day one and all the opportunity to call games because I was calling our high school football game stuff, and I was like, wow, I can really do that here. And at KU, it kind of seemed like you can do that, but it was more of like a junior year thing or like later on. I was like, Nebraska's probably best for my career.
I have one more question for you before we let you go, Brady. Thanks for doing this. What do students do before games now? I'm sure it looks very different than what it was, 10, 15 years ago when I was in college.
They have those union tailgates, and I think that's where a lot of, at least like Greek life, like I'm in a fraternity, that's where we normally went, freshmen. And so I'm a junior, so I haven't experienced the bar scene game day vibe yet. So
are you 21?
No. So I won't experience that for a little bit.
Will you be 21 during the season this year?
May.
Okay. Same as me. That was exactly what I had.
I just was wondering with beer being served in the stadium, like if you would next year.
People are very excited about that. I'll say the student base is very excited about that.
Good. I want somebody who's excited about that. They might not be so excited when they have to pay for it, but hey.
Awesome. All right, bro, Brady, we appreciate you doing this, and we'll see you will you be up there this Saturday?
This Saturday, no. Next Saturday, I think I will be.
All right.
Yeah. Houston Christian. All right.
We'll shake hands and we'll blow off Damon again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Come find us whenever you're around. If you're at media availabilities on Monday and Tuesday, same thing. Will do. Thanks for having me, guys. All right. There he goes. That's our good friend now, Brady Alderson, a junior at Nebraska. When we come back, we have some over-unders and some picks for the weekend. We'll be back after this.
But first, a word from our friends at DoorDash. Ladies and gentlemen, it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Nebraska, it was Emmett Johnson who delivered in a big way. He kept moving the chains. Johnson gained 108 yards of the ground and touched the ball 32 times, which is a lot. 32 times, always helping his team. When the pressure was on, EJ was there for Nebraska. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance, going back to last year, was not a fluke. Emmett Johnson is rolling. And just like Emmett Johnson delivered, DoorDash is delivering on your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right. Thanks to our good friend, Brady Alderson, for joining the show. That was a lot of fun. I've been curious about what the kids are doing for pregame for a long time now, so I had to ask that question. I don't know. It was different. It was different when you and I were both in school.
Yeah. I don't. We definitely did not have the Union tailgate when I was in school, but
no, we were. It was.
I've seen that. I've walked by that, and it's pretty cool looking.
There wasn't a whole lot going on campus. Let's just say that. Yeah, it was mostly in various other places. Nebraska and Akron, 6:30 on Saturday night. Should be pretty ho-hum. Akron's one of the worst teams in the FBS. If it's not, then we have something completely different to talk about. So the numbers are a little bit probably skewed, given that we feel like Nebraska will probably win pretty comfortably. So let's set the Dylan Raiola passing yards number at 215.5, Mitch.
Yeah. I'm going to say over. I'm going to say Dylan gets about 2.5 to 3/4 of work. Akron's defense did hold up fine in the Zips opener against Wyoming. It was a 10-0 game. I got Dylan going for 225, 230. He threw for 243 in the opener, of course, playing 4 full quarters. And I think Nebraska will hit a couple of big plays in the pass game to expand that number. His yards per attempt is going to be way above the 5.8 that we saw in Kansas City.
Quick sub pick. If you were to throw out a number, how many passes will Dylan throw? Like
24.
I was going to say like 26 or something like that. So yeah, hopefully a lot less than the 44 he threw a week ago. I will say over there as well. I think he'll rack up a few yards in the long passing game again. Mekhi Nelson and Isaiah Mosey combined touches last week. Of course, it was 3. This week, we're setting the number at 13.5.
Yeah. Why don't you take this one first?
Yeah, I will say I will say over. I think there will be ample opportunity for those guys to get into the game and get rolling. That's a pretty good number. It's a pretty aggressive number, but I think they'll want to force feed those guys a little bit. So I'll take the over.
Yeah, I will too. I just think in the fourth quarter that's going to go up. If we set this on like the first 3 quarters and we put it at like 10 or 9, I might actually take the under. But I think that number could even get close to like 18 or 20, and I think a lot of that work is going to be in the fourth quarter. All right, first touchdown of the season scored at Memorial Stadium. Who will it be? Could be an Akron player.
It could be an Akron player, of which I definitely know all their names. It will be Luke Lindenmeyer.
We agree on this. I had that right here, Luke Lindenmeyer. Maybe it's because it was his birthday this week and everybody was talking about that, and Luke came to the press. I don't know, but I'm with you on that.
It's a big Luke Lindenmeyer week. Who's Nebraska's leading receiver, and how many catches do they have?
Just the name of the player who leads Nebraska in receptions. So I'm gonna say that it's Dane Key this week. Key and Hunter both had 6 against Cincinnati to tie for the lead.
Yeah, sure. I'll go Hunter here. you could also throw Barney in there too. I think I picked Barney last week. So let's go Hunter.
Yeah. All right. Number of punts hit by the sensational Archie Wilson in his Memorial Stadium debut. How many times will he have to punt? Again, Akron's defense, maybe not bad. He punted 4 times for a 36.8-yard average with no returns in the season opener.
This game will be a higher possession game because I think Nebraska will probably score quicker, and I think Akron will get 3 and outs quicker on offense. So it's very possible that he could punt more this week. But let's just go 4 again. Let's just back-to-back weeks, 4 punts. All
right, I'll go with 3. 3 punts for Archie. Efficient game for Nebraska on the offensive side. Huskers go for it on 4th down a couple of times, and when things are comfortably happening, when Nebraska's comfortably in the lead, I don't think you're going to see a lot of the Aussie at that point. Aussie. Yeah. Hey, look for Archie to be doing some serious media stuff at the end of the week. That's all I'm going to say. Like, you may see him on TV if you live outside of the state of Nebraska.
Well, is Al Roker coming into town finally?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's
I don't know if that's how it's going to look, but pretty much, yes. I think you hit it on the head.
Unbelievable. This is great. This is a great story. I keep seeing every day I see a new news story about how Archie Wilson is just the most loved college football player in America and Australia.
Apparently, there was an Australian TV reporter in Kansas City for the game doing like a live stand-up in the game, like during the game while it was on ESPN.
Totally cool. Totally legal.
Yeah, for sure. And like he thought that it was the Cincinnati Cornhuskers. He said that at one point during Archie's team, Cincinnati is ahead 6-3 at the moment. That they don't know anything about the game they're watching, but they're just enamored. He stole hearts with his press conference moment. It's amazing.
How many yards is his longest punt on Saturday?
I think he breaks the 50. I said no on that last week. I'm going to say he has a 56-yard punt.
Yeah. Good.
Not net, but just the distance that his longest punt travels. It might have some bounce to it to get that far.
Right. I've always thought that if he was to have a long punt, I think he'll roll one. So I think he'll roll one. He could roll one up to 60, something like that. I'm not sure what it's going to look
someday.
Like, yeah, he'll have a long one on Saturday. Let's pick a couple games here. Big Ten game of the week is the Cyhawk game. It's in Ames. Iowa State is 3.5-point favorite. 3.5 points, huh? Against Iowa on Saturday morning on Fox.
I don't know if it's because Iowa State played in Ireland and they're more on people's radar, or if because Iowa's savior at QB threw for all of 44 yards in the season opening win against Albany. But these two teams seem to be more in the spotlight right now, or, Big Noon is going there on Saturday. There's not a ton of great games on the schedule, although there's one good one we'll talk about next. This game seems to be getting a lot of attention, like beyond the state of Iowa, and the trash talk, like the barbs that are being thrown to me are better than usual. They're always good, but they're better than usual. I'm going to take Iowa plus 3.5. Like 3.5 is a huge line in this game because it's Iowa State. I'm taking the Hawks.
100%. I take the points in this game every year. It's a tradition unlike any other, so I'm doing it again. Michigan goes to Oklahoma. The homecoming of Sharon Moore, who is not suspended for this game.
Right, that starts on Sunday.
Oklahoma's a 5.5-point favorite.
Yeah, Sharon Moore will be in jail starting on Sunday for 2 weeks. Figurative jail, like nothing. He can be at his house, all of that, but he will not be with the Michigan football team after it returns to Ann Arbor from this trip to Norman. So man, I hope I don't hope anything, but Sharon is hoping that things go well in Oklahoma. All right. I'm going to take the Sooners and lay the points in this one.
Wow.
First trip on the road for Bryce Underwood. One of the best quarterback performances that we saw in week 1 was from John Mateer of Oklahoma, the first-year QB for the Sooners from Washington State. I think Oklahoma's going to win this game and win it by 7.
Okay. I'll take Michigan here. Their score wasn't that impressive against New Mexico last week, but I like the way it looked for them. And they're talented. Oklahoma is as well. This is a great matchup. I like this game a lot. Oklahoma's got a lot to prove, though. I'm going to take Michigan, given the 5.5 points here. It's in the Vegas zone, though, right? So it tells you that they could see Oklahoma just winning the game outright. So I actually do think they will win outright. I think they'll go to Oklahoma and win the game.
That one's ABC 6:30.
And then bonus game before we get to Nebraska here quickly. We've had a spat this week between Dan Lanning and Mike Gundy. Dan Lanning, the head coach of Oregon, Mike Gundy, the coach of Oklahoma State, talking about how much they pay everyone and things like that. And Dan Lanning, always good for just an excellent crackback quote, which was good this week, talking about, some people making excuses and things like that. Oregon is a gigantic 28.5 point favorite
My goodness.
On 2:30 on CBS on Saturday.
Well, so this game also is notable to us because Zane Flores, the quarterback from Gretna, the native Nebraskan, is making his first start at Oklahoma State. He did not win the job out of camp in August. Hoss Haney, the TCU transfer, won it, and then suffered a season-ending injury in the Pokes opener last week, which was a victory against Directional State, something like that. 2:30 CBS. All right, Zane, you wanted it, you got it. Going into Outson Stadium, man, what a place for a starting debut. I'm going to take the underdog and say that Oklahoma State sneaks in and gets out with less than a 28.5 point loss. It might be 28 or 27.
Yeah.
Do not like Oklahoma State's chances in this game to keep it competitive, but I will take, that's a lot of points. I'll take that.
Oregon will crack a disgusting beatdown on Oklahoma State on Saturday. They could score whatever they would like to in the 50s, 60s. Who knows? I'll take Oregon to cover it. I wouldn't bet this game, but I'll take Oregon with a little bit of motivation to crush Oklahoma State. Sorry, Zane.
When you're at Oklahoma State and your coach has been telling you throughout the week, at least in what he says publicly, that it's unfair and that your team doesn't have a chance because the other team is playing by different rules.
Not the way I would have played it, Mitch. Not the way I would have played it. And then Nebraska returns home to Memorial Stadium. They are a 34.5 point favorite against Akron, with the total sitting at 47.5. Mitch, what is your final score for this one?
I'm saying 35-7. So I have Akron covering the spread and it going under.
Okay. I'm going to say Nebraska gets into the 40s. Let's say 42-10. So I guess that would
still be a non-cover.
That'd be Akron covering and the over.
Yep. Okay. That's what we got. We'll be back on Friday to answer your questions in the mailbag. Right now, it's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV.